Being adult is really kind of cool, honestly. You get money to do stuff. You can eat pork buns for breakfast if you want, and you can even put frogs into your Nic Fit deck. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we're going to be playing some Nic Fit, but not a normal good Nic Fit brew. We're going to be going into the jank tank a little bit to put some frogs into our Nic Fit deck. So historically, the Nic Fit frog of choice is the Gitrog monster, which is not a good Magic the Gathering card. Let's start there. This is a 5 mana card that does not have an immediate impact on the battlefield when you cast it or when it enters. So that is a really hard sell in Legacy. Now it is a giant 6/6 Death Toucher. You can play an additional land on each one of your turns, and whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. So there are upsides to this card. You get an exploration attached to a giant death-touching body, and you can maybe start drawing 1 or 2 cards each turn. So cool. And it has really good synergy with cards like Life from the Loam. And our goal today is to abuse Life from the Loam a little bit. Life from the Loam, return 3 lands to hand, discard 3 lands to Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog draws a card, dredge Life from the Loam. There's some synergy there, and it is kind of neat. Unfortunately, what I've been finding is that Psychic Frog, while really broken in the blue cantrip shells that have all these tempo elements and Force of Wills to support them, I'm feeling that it is considerably less good in the non-blue shells, and we'll see if I continue to feel this way after this league. So Preston plus Brother submitted this list. I made a few changes. The biggest change that I wanted to do was I wanted to add something slightly more unfair to this deck list. So there were originally 3 Vexing Baubles. I cut them for 3 copies of Natural Order, and I cut a couple, well not cut, I moved a couple of Silver Bullets for Green Sun to the sideboard to fit in Atraxa, as well as Springheart Nantuko. If we want to lean into this like whole landfall, Flare of Cultivation, sacrifice my Veteran Explorer to Flare of Cultivation, get a billion D lands stuff, then having something with landfall that can help us go wide of our opponents is actually pretty interesting. And the 1/1 are the insects. The 1/1 insects that we get from this are also green. So those are green creatures for Flare of Cultivation. It's like they're from the same set and they have synergy together or something. And those same creatures can also be sacrificed to Cabal Therapy. Other things that could have fit into this shell, but I did not add, White of the Reliquary, Orcish Bowmasters are things that immediately come to mind. As far as the mana base goes, it's definitely Sketch. A Nic Fit shell needs a lot of basic lands. A Flare of Cultivation Nic Fit deck needs a lot of basic lands. So just physically separating this out so you can get the feel for this. So we have 7 basic lands in the deck. I am not going to try to squeeze in 1 basic plains to hardcast exactly 1 card in my deck. I will throw a Surveil land into the deck that is white. This is going to come with relatively little downside. But more generally, if we look at the number of lands in this deck that are either colorless or monocolored, it is a huge portion. So Nic Fit, unfortunately, is going to suffer a little bit from having some hands that are not going to produce 1 or more of its colors. And in return for that, you get a deck that's really fun. Maybe not a deck that's good, but a deck that is very, very fun. And there's some decent internal synergy here, right? Like Risk can mill cards. Those cards going to the graveyard can be brought back via Life from the Loam or exiled to Psychic Frog's ability to give it flying. You know, there's things to like here. As far as the sideboard goes, I don't think we're trying to beat everything. So we kind of have a focus on, I think, 3 or 4 different categories. We have a focus on the graveyard. We have a focus on generic combo disruption. We have a focus on artifacts. And then a focus on having some generic removal spells. I am not opting for the more mana-efficient Fatal Push here. I am doing some things like Go for the Throat that are going to generically hit everything. And I'm going to try out a couple of copies of Long Goodbye. This is something that can uncounterably take out an opposing Psychic Frog while also having some utility in the Planeswalker-based matchups. So that between Long Goodbye and Sheoldred's Edict, we're not going to have to worry about like the Teferis and stuff out-tempoing us. So yeah, let's kind of see how this goes. We're here for a good time. And as long as we keep that attitude throughout the league and don't tilt off about how good Grief and Psychic Frog are, we'll probably be fine. Should you need some cards, folks, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. That's Tales of Adventures. You always get free shipping with them. At any given time, they have about 95% of standard legal cards in stock. And if you use promo code ThrabenU, you save 5% on your order to boot. Let's go frog some people, huh? Okay, so we are on the draw here with a Psychic Frog Life from the Loam hand that can really dump a lot into a Psychic Frog, assuming that we don't just get punked by something. But the current metagame is such that, like, we could just see End of Turn Entomb, Animate Dead Atraxa, and I'm not playing Magic. Luckily for us, that is not happening this time. Are we going to see a Psychic Frog? Seems likely. Sure. I'm thinking about whether or not I am surveilling a land into my graveyard right here. It opens me up to Wasteland. That doesn't matter long term, it super matters short term. I think it super matters short term. So let's fetch a swamp. Let's play an island. I will attempt my own Psychic Frog. This is an incredible counterspell. My opponent does have one. Unfortunately, they do have the Force of Will. And this is what these non-blue Psychic Frog decks are going to be lacking. My opponent has Psychic Frog backed by a counterspell, and that's not something that I can do, so their Psychic Frog is just better than my Psychic Frog. And being the, like, more efficient Psychic Frog deck is incredibly potent. Mana's a touch awkward here. Since I am opting not to get wastelanded, I can't do something like Springheart Nantuko into fetch land immediately. I also can't Bojuka Bog while making a play. That's a little rough. Well, that's my long-term win. When am I Bojuka Bogging? I think not this turn. I'm also going to have to get green-green. I think I'm playing 6 this turn. It's Dazeable, which I don't love. But I think I'm into this. Fuck. Yeah. And this is a play pattern we have seen many years off and on, where when a tempo deck has a 2-mana source of card advantage, these like 1-for-1 trades and even 2-for-1 trades that are not on paper favorable end up being really good for the opponent, because they are just like dealing damage and drawing cards and advancing their game plan while 1-for-1ing each individual game action that is occurring. Sure. And at the point where like a second Psychic Frog hits play or something, things start getting really bad. Yeah, that is a turn before I Bojuka Bogged, so that is frustrating. So we need to hope that Natural Order resolves next turn. I think that's pretty much where I am at. So Murktide Regent is going to grow if I Bojuka Bog my opponent later. I think I am going to go ahead and just like play a Bojuka Bog now while it has no real text. And just make my creature with it. And then the hope next turn is I Natural Order for Atraxa, and that just works. I've hopefully prevented the Psychic Frog from flying this turn, but my opponent has 4 cards in hand, so that is like very much not guaranteed, especially with Surveil. I believe I will just be dead on board if my opponent counters my Natural Order. Very close to dead right now. Rough. That's 3 card types. That's fine. That's why I didn't play Tropical Island. But my spell is now Dazeable. Psychic Frog can fly. DRC can become a 3/3. Life's bad. Alright. Am I dead now? 8, 9, 10. No. It'll be 11, 12. Yeah, no, I'm taking that. So I lose to another Daze or Force of Will. Grist is cool. I will just die if I play Grist this turn rather than Natural Order, though. Like, I can play Grist, destroy Murktide Regent, and my opponent will have 4 cards. That's at least 5 damage from Psychic Frog, a 6th damage here. Nope. So we have the Natural Order. Here we go. So dead to Daze or Force of Will. Hey! There's Atraxa. I now get to refuel. So I will take Sorcery. Instant. Reacher. I think I'll just take the basic. Land? Alright, I've made my land drop. I'll pass the turn. This is what I've got. I'm dead to a Brazen Borrower. I still might just die to my opponent just outright attacking me. Lightning Bolt to my face, sure. Ooh, DRC now has to attack with that instant in graveyard. I can't block the DRC, though. I have to block the Murktide Regent or I just die. Yeah, if I block DRC, I could take 8, 9, 10, 11, which is lethal. So I am unfortunately trading away my Atraxa. My opponent still gets to draw cards. That's a rough position to be in. And the Psychic Frog will just kill me next turn. Opponent can have 4 cards in hand. That's 5 damage alone. And I get set back on mana further. That's pretty awful. I see this play pattern so frequently. Like, if you have a Ponder and a Wasteland, like, just play your Ponder first and see if your plan changes. You may find something that is better than Wastelanding. You do not have to commit to that decision. My 6 is gone. I have 1 Springheart Nantuko in the deck. Elvish Reclaimer, Veteran Explorer are fair game. My Bojuka Bog has been used. That Wasteland was really damning. And here we see my basic lands getting me in trouble. I can Life from the Loam, Bojuka Bog, still die. Psychic Frog is dumb. So I need to instead Shoulder's Edict, remove one of those creatures, and set myself up for success. I think the greatest chance that I win this game involves playing this and my Shoulder's Edict not getting countered. Like, it is safer to cast the Shoulder's Edict first so it's not dazable, but I think I'm just losing if my opponent has more interaction anyway. I'm going to take the higher EV play that lets me play this and get my landfall trigger so that I can sacrifice a token to Grist next turn. Alright, opponent junks the Psychic Frog, which honestly I'm very happy with. Again, I will just be dead to Lightning Bolt, though. So there's the 3 damage. Am I dead? Yeah. So just making sure that we understood what happened here. I produced an Atraxa Grand Unifier, a 7-mana Flying Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelinker that drew me 4 cards, and it did not matter because I had to chump block with it. Such is the power level of the current, like, blue-black shell in Legacy. I can board in a whole bunch of removal here. One of my biggest problems is, like, my deck is just slower than my opponent's deck by a lot. So Cabal Therapy is out for some removal. I need to take out this weaker target. Natural Order, in theory, is not great versus counterspells, but this is one of the few things I can do that goes over the top of my opponent's Murktide Regents and such. And assuming that this stuff takes up some number of their counterspells, like, this is good to have in the deck. Honestly, it kind of feels like my frogs are bad. Opponent is playing Unholy Heat, which is much better at killing frog than traditional red-based removal. Like, it's very hard for me to go all in on frog, whereas it's very easy for my opponent to go all in on frog because I have fewer removal spells and fewer, like, Force of Wills and stuff. Like, the easiest way for me to make these cuts work is just do this, but then, like, why am I in Nic Fit at that point? Let's junk some amount of this stuff. This is fine. I think I am green sunning for Dryad Arbor. That is just always mana ramp. And this baits out an initial removal spell so that it's maybe not hitting a Psychic Frog. This mitigates some of the power of just getting, like, wastelanded on turn 1, which otherwise would be pretty rough for the other hand. And I will have the possibility of playing a Psychic Frog while also playing a Veteran Explorer in the same turn. I'm getting bolted. You got it. So in terms of tempo, my best play is Psychic Frog, but I have a single green source in my hand, and if I don't cast this Life from the Loam now, I could get knocked off of it. So I will be casting Life from the Loam instead. Alright, it resolved, but that sat on the stack for way longer than it should have. So next turn, I can Psychic Frog plus Veteran Explorer. But again, my opponent's Psychic Frogs are so much better than mine that it's a little frustrating. Yeah. My opponent just has more cards in hand, so they win the Psychic Frog fight as of right now. I am okay dredging. I would rather just draw an untapped green land here. I'm going to leave that in graveyard. Dryad Arbor in hand is awkward. Alright. I'll cast my own Psychic Frog. And this is what I was talking about, right? Where, like, the Psychic Frog backed by Force of Will is so much stronger than the Psychic Frog that is not. I can at least force it to fly if my opponent does not want to ramp me. That's a pretty low cost right now, though. Like, that's just trading 3 cards in graveyard for drawing a card. It's cantrip time. Alright, so there's a second land drop. There's flying. The Psychic Frog gets to kind of ignore the thing that Veteran Explorer was built to do, and that is, like, block and ramp. Ooh, we are getting a little more investment here into the Psychic Frog damage-wise. Draft Digger's Cage. Draft Digger's Cage. Draft Digger's Cage. Well, I have to now just draw a removal spell to Psychic Frog. I can't just ignore it. So I guess we will attempt this again. Play my land drop. Yeah, my opponent, even if I hold these extra cards in hand, just wins the Psychic Frog fight, so I shouldn't even bother to try. I'll attack. I can Bojuka Bog to mess with their graveyard next turn. My natural order is dead. I am not very good at removing that Graft Digger's Cage, so my natural order is just dead for the rest of the game. And I can't really block this creature effectively, because if I do, my opponent can dump 3 cards into it, make it a 5-power creature, and this stuff is no longer good. I am just going to block with Dryad Arbor and prevent my opponent from drawing that card. And try to get some Life from the Loam nonsense going from there. Cool. Yeah, so my Psychic Frog is not going to get to attack into that. I don't get to Bojuka Bog my opponent anymore and stop a Murktide from coming into play. And I even dredge Life from the Loam. Like, the plan was Life from the Loam go into Frog. I don't think I can do that anymore. Well, that's almost good. But I'm just going to die in like 2 turns. I don't think it matters. Sure. This game's over at this point. I don't think I can possibly win. My opponent has 2 superior threats to what I have going on. My Psychic Frog doesn't get to attack unless they want it to attack. My Reclaimer doesn't have text. My Veteran Explorer doesn't have text. Sure. Take 6. This is a 3/4. That I can maybe mess with my Psychic Frog. I can target 1, 2, 3. Going bam. And bam. Now my Psychic Frog can beat my opponent's Psychic Frog in combat. This is secretly a 3/4 if I discard all of these lands. The issue here is that my opponent's removal is better than my removal, so I might attack in and then just get absolutely punked by removal spells that can functionally hit my creatures. Alright, so discard this natural order that never has text. Discard a Dryad Arbor. Discard a Swamp. Guard an Underground Mortuary. Now this is a 3/4. If we just get Fatal Pushed and eat like a 4 for 1. Okay, so opponent is just naturally blocking with Psychic Frog. That's fine. Alright, so I get to draw a card. I could just dredge Life from the Loam immediately. Since I can't cast that, I think I'm just going to take a natural draw. A Lush Portico. I need to kill my opponent next turn. Or kill Murktide Regent. I have 9 damage showing plus Psychic Frog. I think my opponent gets to just attack me. I can give my opponent Psychic... Fuck, my opponent can just discard whatever card they draw to give their Psychic Frog flying. Fuck. I think I'm surveilling. That goes to graveyard. My opponent is playing that land. Why? Is that worth the life to have an extra land in play, like the 4th land in play, versus just discarding it, making Psychic Frog bigger and flying for the same effect? I might need to dredge Life from the Loam and discard a bunch of cards to Psychic Frog and just be able to block Murktide Regent. Alright. So I dredge Life from the Loam. I Bojuka Bog my opponent right now. They have to give Psychic Frog flying in response. then it can't fly for their next turn. Then I life from the loam. I have a 9 toughness psychic frog, and my opponent has to do something like cantrip, cantrip, cantrip to fly. Yeah, this is going to grow Murktide by 1. I don't think that matters. Sacrifice a swamp, as I'm about to get Bojuka Bog. Ague. Yeah, I figured it out. Life from the loam. I'm going to discard them all immediately, so it doesn't really matter what I target. Yeah. I'm already dead to a removal spell, right? Like Psychic Frog gets removed and I'm always dead. Yeah, so I will just do all of these now. Yeah. Alright. Well, there's a little more game to this than I thought. Alright. So, I will exile 3 cards from my graveyard. Give my Psychic Frog flying. I will block Murktide. I will block Veteran Explorer. Block with Veteran Explorer. Well, I won. I hated every minute of that, but I won. So Psychic Frog plus Life from the Loam is a thing. Now I decide, like I reevaluate this sort of thing. That 4-card package could be Bam Bam and something like Bam Bam or Bam Bam. Like my opponent is playing Grafdigger's Cage. That will shut off the natural orders as the game goes along. The Veteran Explorers feel pretty bad if I'm not playing Flare of Cultivation. Veteran Explorers are also natural order food. On the draw, the dazes are so incredibly good versus natural order, but my opponent should hopefully be out of counterspells by the time we get there. Bam. More access to early Bojuka Bog. Keep a couple of Veteran Explorers to annoy Psychic Frog. Sure. I need more mana. Assuming I get more mana, this hand has exactly what I'm looking for, which is just like a pile of cards named Endurance. You're hoping to avoid turn 1 DRC with this hand. And it's a DRC that is immediately selecting. That's not great. I probably have to fetch non-basics, because I in theory want to curve Reclaimer into Psychic Frog into Endurance. Alternatively, I could try to cheese this one. I think with another Reclaimer here, I can just get the basic Forest. And I accept that Psychic Frog is harder to cast at the upside of being able to cast multiple Reclaimers. All I need to do is stay alive. If I stay alive, this hand should win. That is an if, though. Why not junk some Murktide? And then gets a little more selection. Junking a Psychic Frog. Are we digging for land? Are we digging for land? Ooh. We are digging for land. That makes this wasteland so incredibly potent. But I think I need it. I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice this wasteland now. I'm going to pick up a Bojuka Bog and just Bojuka Bog my opponent to clear their graveyard, assuming that their graveyard is checked later. This means I'm never getting hit for 3 on their turn, and my opponent is never going to just play untapped natural blue source into Murktide Regent. I just don't want to fall significantly behind on board. That's fine. My opponent's counterspells are now very good. They surveil twice. Untapped Greenland is the dream here. Well, that's close. So I'll play that. That is another land. I always want to draw that land. Then I start playing Endurance around days. I'm going to go ahead and put that on top. I will just cast an Elvish Reclaimer. I sort of expect this to be countered, even though it's not a very good card, just so my opponent can surveil too. They're thinking about it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we got a Psychic Frog there. That's incredible. DRC down. Bobble down. That's 3 card types in graveyard immediately. I'm not going to push that point of damage. Sometimes it keeps DRCs from attacking. Now, opponent is under the 5-minute mark at this point. Lightning Bolt on my Elvish Reclaimer. You got it. Yep, that's fine. I'm going to take 6 here and then hopefully stabilize the game with Endurance into Endurance. Sure. That's a little scary. I'm going to go for in combat Endurance Unless this Delver trigger is showing my opponent drawing a counterspell. That is a Ponder. Sure. I'm going to let my opponent surveil here. They like that card. If I was the opponent, about the only thing that I would be keeping on top at this point is a counterspell to stop an endurance that's probably coming. So I think now I fire this off. Yeah. And if this is like Force of Will plus blue card here, then they don't get nearly as much value off of their surveil triggers as they have already topped a card that they like. So Unholy Heat currently not killing endurance. Attacks are currently fogged. I think I have a blue surveil land that I can find, although I do also in theory need green for natural order. When I cast natural order is a little weird. All right, everybody's coming in. So that means Lightning Bolt is about to happen. I think I will just block the Delver. A little awkward if this is Unholy Heat. I think I am just preventing short-term damage here. Damn it. My opponent likes their card again. That's scary. Yep. All right, I have prevented the highest amount of short-term damage. I will fetch. Oh, I do have green. What am I talking about? So I can get Lush Portico if I am ignoring Psychic Frog. Don't think I am ignoring Psychic Frog here. Like, I think Endurance is my next play, but... Ooh. I could Psychic Frog discarding natural orders, then I have a 3/4 flyer that blocks DRC and follow up with Endurance the following turn. I think I'm just going to Endurance, though. I think I'm going to do this before my opponent gets another draw step. Like, they like whatever card is coming. That might be preventing a Murktide Regent or something from getting into play. Alright, so my opponent wants to trade one of these and a Lightning Bolt. I accept that 2 for 1. Sure. That Wasteland is actually incredibly good right now, but my opponent absolutely cannot tell that from where they are sitting. Ooh, Grafdigger's Cage goes away. That's just to make this larger. Another Endurance is just incredible if I don't get dazed. Ooze isn't bad. Psychic Frog is a mana inefficient play, but plays around Daze. I think I'm into the Frog. This also just like plays a card that I could no longer play if my opponent wastelanded me, so there's that. It's awkward if my opponent has a Murktide Regent left over. Let's get flying. Exile 1, 2, 3. Go to blocks. Block. We'll discard the natural orders that are currently awkward. Not bad, just awkward. Discard. This is a 3/4. We, in theory, are coming out ahead in this exchange. Holy shit. Holy shit. What is in my opponent's hand? Don't know, don't care. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I think I play around Daze. X equals 3. Force of Negation. That makes sense. Yeah. Playing a Veteran Explorer is unexciting, but fine. Ponder is good. Opponent wants a giant monster, like a Murktide Regent very specifically, would be ideal. Opponent also in danger of timing out at this point. Nic Fit wins. Do we celebrate that? Unsure. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is, in my opinion, the best Magic the Gathering website for hosting your deck lists online. One of my favorite features is that you can create your own custom tags for when you're deck building. So let's say you're building a commander deck and you want to know, hey, how many copy effects do I have? You can just create a tag and sort everything, and there's fun little hotkeys so that you can do this more quickly. So really, please consider checking them out if you are looking to tinker with deck lists online. All right. We actually, in theory, have a pretty interesting hand that can kind of go ham with this on turn 2. Yeah. So, Thought-Knot Seer is a thing that exists. Am I going to play around Thought-Knot Seer? I don't think so. I think it is so much better for me to create a gajillion D blockers on turn 2. And I think I don't want to get wastelanded. I should have played Misty. In all likelihood, it is not going to matter, but I think that was just objectively correct. Yeah, so normally you just want to Flare of Cultivation immediately, but like given all of these blockers that I can generate on turn 2, I think it is just too important. So this is the most terrifying possible land my opponent could have played. I'm absolutely not blocking, which is weird. Okay, sure. It wasn't Glaring Fleshraker plus Friends, which is really important. So now, non-basic, Springheart Nantuko, sacrifice Veteran Explorer. Now we each get 2 basic lands. I will be taking a black one, and the other one doesn't super matter right now. I guess I'll take a blue one. Get 2 landfall triggers. Now Flare of Cultivation resolves. I will get 2 forests. Put 1 into play tapped. The other goes to my hand. 3rd insect trigger, Sheoldred's Edict. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Yeah. Now I fully have to rely on the top of my deck being good. Like, I don't have any action going on here, but I do have jump blockers for days. Eldrazi Linebreaker would be pretty scary. That gives trample and haste, I believe. Or it innately has trample and gives haste. Yeah, I think it innately has trample. Alright, Sowing Mycospawn happens. This is kicked, so my opponent can get rid of one of my lands. Probably... Oh. Sure. I guess you can get Wasteland and target it at Trop. Yeah, that's fine, so you can cut me off of blue. I have another Surveil land in the deck still. Yikes. So, bam, landfall trigger, and I unfortunately have to pass the turn. This is where I need to just, like, rip a natural order for Atraxo or something. Cool. The card does nothing. Oh, geez, Titania would be hot on this board. Just make a bunch of 5/3 elementals. Combat's very awkward for my opponent. Fetch. Surveil land. Make my friend. Good God, no. And I think I'm not trying to trade with this. I think I am just trying to buy time until I hit something good. That is not something good. I think Surveil land matters more than secondary landfall trigger here. Deck. Come the fuck on. Sure. Springheart Nantuko. Doing work, though. Wasteland's fine. Yep. I do have to start worrying about Eye of Ugin activations. Yeah. Trigger. I'll pass turn here. I'm going to Wasteland Eye of Ugin in my opponent's upkeep. Is 7 to activate it. Does cost 2 life. Power of Destiny is very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, still castable. I'm still going to take out that Eye of Ugin before my opponent untaps with it, I believe. Alright. Nantuko or the Reclaimer? I think it's the Nantuko. Opponent thinks it is the Reclaimer. I'll respond. Don't super need Lush Portico. So let's get rid of that. I'll pick up a Wasteland of my own and see if my opponent wants to Wasteland my Wasteland. Combat's very awkward for my opponent still. Will I give up 5 creatures to draw a card? Bet your ass I will. And I will probably just block with all of these in case some number of combat tricks get involved. Bam. Take 4. Lose 5 insects. Draw that card. Oh. How does this read again? Is put onto the graveyard from the battlefield. Don't you dare thought not seer me. Judge. I don't know. My opponent did a hate crime. I hate it. That's really rough. Alright. Bam. Fetch. Wow, that's my last fetchable. Like, I felt like I was drawing a lot of land. That is confirmation of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 7. Either way, that's most of my opponent's good stuff still. I think I am just going to take out their wasteland. Yeah, I just need to draw a bomb. I don't have that much time. Yeah. We're just keeping the life total healthy here. Fuck. There are literally no lands in my deck for me to get with that. That is beyond frustrating. And my opponent's top deck of Eye of Ugin is also rough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So because I did not wasteland them off of Ancient Tomb, and I instead chose to play around Wasteland on the Dryad Arbor that was in my hand, my opponent gets to activate this turn. So I think I lose. I think my opponent gets another Devourer of Destiny for Springheart Nantuko, and that's just it. Opponent does that by tapping 3 lands. Sure. Yeah, so we're gonna let the 4 damage through, I think. I don't think there's a top deck that gets me out of this from here. That certainly does not do it. Yeah. That was just my deck not cooperating. We drew just about every land in the deck that game. Like, looking at the graveyard here, it's kind of insane. Alright, I have a handful of removal spells that I can play. Scavenging Ooze is a thing. I think I get rid of Cabal Therapy and just assume that Veteran Explorer blocks at some point. That gets me 1, 2, 3. Long Goodbye does not kill everything, but it kills Sowing Mycospawn very notably, so like it's definitely coming in. And then I, in theory, need 2 more cuts. Reclaimer is mid with only 2 wastelands, but it's a decent body for 1 mana. It's hard for me to invest fully in Psychic Frog here because of Kozilek's command, which cleanly answers it, and I don't have counterspells to stop that. I am also just going to go down Psychic Frog because then I need to worry about blue considerably less in my initial mana choices. Oh, deck. Oh, deck. This is 3 removal spells, which is incredible. But there's an asterisk or 2 there. I think no. This is fine. I'm going to get rid of the tapped Bojuka Bog here. It is my intention to Springheart onto Flare of Cultivation and Long Goodbye on 3. It's a little awkward if my opponent just snaps off a Wasteland turn 1 on this mana source, but it's not the end of the world. Alright. So we get some small stuff in exile. Blaring Fleshraker on turn 1 would be annoying. That Wasteland on turn 1 that I talked about is annoying. I don't want to show the Wasteland before I have to in this matchup, which is why I didn't play Wasteland, and the fetch land is really supposed to trigger this. This is Glaring Fleshraker. I have to Long Goodbye that on my turn. Oh, I can go for the Throat instead. No, Long Goodbye is just better. Alright. I think I will just get the basic, despite the fact that I do have Flare of Cultivation. And my next turn is really strong. It is Springheart Nantuko plus Wasteland, plus Flare of Cultivation beyond that. Hello, Thought-Knot Seer. I think my Springheart Nantuko is pretty easily the best card in my hand here. I don't think you take the Go for the Throat. So I will just nuke the Thought-Knot Seer, draw my card, and then decide which of these I am Wastelanding. The Eye of Ugin is much scarier long term. If I Wasteland Ancient Tomb, my opponent may or may not actually have colorless mana to cast their spells. I am going to go for the Ancient Tomb. This is the better short-term play, and I think I need to get out of the short term. This is the higher risk, higher reward line. Oh, sure. Null Drifter is uncommon, but not unprecedented. Another one. Sure, if I had seen those, I 100% would have sniped Eye of Ugin, but we did not see those before. Deck! Alright, I will deck thin here. We'll go Island and Swamp. Island goes on the battlefield. Swamp goes to hand. But I'm sitting on just 3 lands here. My opponent has 5 cards in hand. This is awful. And it's not like I am playing that many land. Like, I am playing 23 land. That is not, like, a 50% mana deck or anything. Sure. Sowing Mycospawn does not get to Wasteland me immediately. That's the good news. Bad news is my opponent can still just get a soul land. Fucking A. Like, no. This is arguably the hardest I've ever seen a deck shit itself. Just 2 games in a row. We are 16 cards deep. We have not seen a threat. Sure, so my opponent gets to take out my island. I'm going to assume that's what they're targeting. Yep. Sure. Yeah, I have nothing. There's nothing here for you to take. You're done. Take 6. Effectively die next turn. I can't make this shit up. I can't make this shit up. Alright, my hand is awkward. I think I am just going to keep it on the draw where I get an extra card to smooth this out. Like, I in theory have a removal spell for an early threat. The fact that I can't play Green Sun on 1 is, like, definitely awkward. Lush Portico doesn't contribute to Psychic Frog, which is awkward. It might not matter, we're just playing against combo. So, we basically just lose the whole matchup. Like, this is not a deck that is really even trying to beat combo. This is likely to be something in the, like, Doomsday Storm general ballpark. And we're just not fast enough as a deck to do that. We're fucking around with too many frogs. Alright, I've lost the Green Sun. Which I think is pretty obviously the best card in my hand. I don't really win this game. I mean, that's natural order fodder. I guess I will take that. But my opponent's under no pressure. They can take the next 2 or 3 turns to cantrip towards whatever it is they need to kill me. Dark Ritual, Doomsday, Infernal Tutor, whatever. Or I can die now. Dying now is great. Nope. Death is prolonged. We'll fetch. Do I really not have either Underground Sea or the Blue-Black Surveil land in here? Nope. Okay, Frog is so not in the cards this game. Gonna get Bayou. Get black. The funny thing is, like, natural order isn't even good enough for a win, because what is Atraxa going to even draw me? The answer is nothing relevant. Okay, I'm not dead yet. And I get to natural order next turn. To natural order next turn, 100% of the time I do need to play Dryad Arbor this turn, though. So I will do that. Bam. 18. Last turn. I'm miraculously still not dead. Holy shit. So you're telling me there's a chance. I don't really have anything to cast, so... Turn dude sideways. This is cruel false hope. Oh my god. They're moving to discard. Oh? Yeah, they're moving to discard. Discarding a Veil. Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Fetch. Get some blue mana. Yeah. It's funny more than anything else at this point. Sacrifice one of the insect tokens. Titania. Target Wasteland. Trigger. Combat. Send in. I have lethal on board. I get to Wasteland my own land to produce 2 5/3 green elementals. Wasteland, Lush Portico. 5/3. Then my land dies, make another 5. I don't believe it. I literally do not believe that we won on turn 6 with only a single piece of disruption for my combo opponent. The bad news is, like, I don't super have good sideboard options here. I didn't throw Mindbreak traps into this sideboard. We don't know exactly what my opponent is doing. This stuff probably comes in regardless. If my opponent is playing something like Wishclaw Talisman's Force of Vigor becomes more interesting. We are always boarding out Sheoldred's Edicts. They are incredibly slow. Gitrog Monster is very slow. Green Sun for Oof is probably one of the better things that I can be doing. Just shut off artifact mana. Grist is probably not necessary. 6, giving Retrace to Thoughtseize is cool, I guess. Bam, bam, bam so far. I need 4 more. This is one of the easiest ways to accomplish that. Is that the best way? I could also just get rid of Veteran Explorers and never ramp my opponent. That's another way to do this. I'm going to try this, though. So this is turn 2 Collector Oof. Turn 1 Dryad Arbor. Turn 2 Oof. It has some graveyard disruption for if that is relevant. Alright, it's just landing past that. It's perfectly fine. So, bam. Go get my Dryad Arbor. Yeah. Pass turn. And now we see if we're dead. Oh, it's just a cantrip. There is a Boseiju. Scavenging Ooze is kind of whatever. Play Island. Green Sun for 2. There's Oof. Artifact mana is off. Again, we're not exactly sure how impactful that is. Alright. So we are in the Storm ballpark now that we see Badlands. That fully confirms that. Veil of Summer was a strong hint, and this is the confirmation. Brave Shot on my Collector Oof. I mean, that's happening. Got it. So, with an Endurance in hand that I can use to nuke the graveyard in an emergency, I think I just try to get some scaling advantage here. Oop. I will cast a Springheart Nantuko. I will Landfall, make a friend, and then go 1 and 2. I think just play another one. And then we have an emergency break for the graveyard and the ability to start going wide. I can also, Phyrexian Tower, sacrifice these insect tokens to get a mana burst. Do my opponent mulligan this hand? Yes, they began with 6 cards. Burning Wish. Not cracking the LED here. Wow, getting a Ponder. That is a rarity. Sure. The Ponder did not shuffle. They found something that they liked. So, Landfall. Ooze can eat twice. Ooze can eat twice while still having Endurance. That seems fine. I'll send in with those. Opponent's at 16. And I will Ooze. And I've got the graveyard pretty covered for something like a Beseech for Gaia's Will. Ball Ritual is less likely. Sure. And I can also just hardcast Endurance if it seems like that is going to be a good idea. Oh, my opponent likes their card. Not great for me. I think I'm going to be just short of killing my opponent if I play Endurance. 11 showing plus 2 Ooze activations off Forest, 13. I know my opponent has 2 cards that they like. My opponent might have something like a Veil of Summer that is just situational and not currently usable. My opponent is running it. Ad Nauseam gets quite bad after next turn. Alright, my opponent burned a lot of clock, so I'm going to assume that I'm dead. The Legend on Boseiju. I had a lot of lands this game. Burning Wish. You just get Peer into the Abyss and just win, right? What are we doing here? Elemental Eruption. So there's no Peer. Sweet. My opponent is Hellbent with a couple of 4/4s. Sure. So Scavenging Ooze only gets bigger for creatures. So just that as of right now. Am I clearing out this stuff and putting this stuff back into my opponent's deck? That's tough. Say no. I don't want my opponent to shuffle and then just be able to naturally find Tendrils or Elemental Eruption again. Flare of Cultivation. So I imagine I just try to attack for lethal next turn and hope I don't die to... it's actually very hard to die to Cantrip String, right? If my opponent casts 2 spells, it's +6. Not lethal. So, bam. Cast. Yaw. Green. Black. Put black onto battlefield tapped. Springheart Nantuko's trigger. Play forest. Yaw. Yaw. Pass. I might still just die. Assume Endurance gets blocked on a backswing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Not lethal. Okay. That's fine. I will just take that hit as is and not block. 16. Ooze. No, not that graveyard. This graveyard. Ooze eats Collector Oof to gain me 1 life. So, play Elvish Reclaimer. Now I can sack that and eat with Scavenging Ooze. So if Endurance and Ooze are both blocked, And also Reclaimer Dryad Arbor away to gain some extra life. How much damage am I presenting? Just raw. 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So at least one thing has to be blocked on the surface as is. And I will always have lethal the following turn. If I don't attack with endurance, I am presenting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and my opponent does not have to block, so I do want to turn everything sideways. All right. And we'll see if we can finesse this in a reasonable way, where either my opponent dies or one of these dragons dies. Okay, one of the dragons is going to die. So this creature is always dying to combat damage. I will sacrifice endurance, do this, not you. Target the endurance and eat that. That turns this into 4. Now, there is not another creature in graveyard, so I will eat. Maybe I don't want to send the sorceries back to graveyard. That's a little awkward. I will just take a ritual out of your graveyard then. Yeah. Weird game. Opponent's at 4. Very dead to me going wide. These have to become 9 power creatures to kill me. That's difficult off of 2 cards. How did we win? How did we win? All right. Opening a hand here has the Atraxa and just not enough mana. We'll mulligan that one. Yak. I guess we're gonna keep and hope Wasteland is good, but this feels pretty bad. Basic Mountain. Stonks. Oh, I wonder if this is my build of Moon Stompy, or if this is going to be just a Storm deck. Let's just play Elvish Reclaimer off Basic Forest. Yeah, it looks like this is my build of Moon Stompy. Or maybe something inspired by it. Flare of Cultivation. Not the best right now. My Elvish Reclaimer is small. And is likely to continue to be small. I could Flare of Cultivation. I don't think that quite makes sense. My life from Loam's kind of bad right now. Oh, also Flare of Cultivation, I guess, runs into Vexing Bubble. Let's drag that that way. Oh shit, it's Painter. Not my build. Alright. I think I'm actually a little better equipped to beat Painter than Moon Stompy. Like with multiple Wastelands here for Urza Sagas. Sure, I have Bojuka Bog to help cover that. It's just a little awkward. I can't both Wasteland and Bojuka Bog. Or can I? This is as cost. Play Veteran Explorer, Flare of Cultivation, it gets countered, still Veteran Explorer, Wasteland this, 2 lands that enter untapped Bojuka Bog after Urza Saga is gone. Yep. Yeah. 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 Sack Veteran Explorer. Vexing Bobble counters the Flare. Yes. Get green, black. Activate. Sacrifice. Bog. Bog target you. This is now also a 3/4. So in the future, this will wall the smaller attackers. I'd like to, I guess, draw a removal spell to be able to break up Goblin Engineer plus Reflection of the Mirror Breaker. Sure. All right. Ooh. Opponent can turn their treasure tokens back into Vexing Baubles via Goblin Engineer. Sweet. And they will do that immediately. Sure. I need to draw something relevant. Or I'm dead. That's not something relevant. So my opponent just goes Reflection, copy. I guess I'm not dead immediately, right? I'm dead if my opponent has a mana source. So, nope. I guess Frog first. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Play Frog. I win combat. I'm not beating the combo stuff, though. I guess I could have attacked to see if my opponent would have messed up blocks with Reflection of Kiki Jiki. I don't think so. Like, that seems like a pretty obvious thing. I'm dead now, though. Yup. Yeah, so it's Painter to Yard. Oh, right. There was always going to be this extra mana. Sure. Guard 1 card. Win combat. Die to combo. There's the Grindstone activation. Now my opponent can weld out any one of their artifacts over there. I'd choose a Vexing Bauble if I were them. And put the Painter into play. Yep. Alright. Easy enough. Force of Vigors, great. Collector Oof, great. Scavenging Ooze, good. Endurance is great. Long Goodbye, good. Go for the Throat, interesting. Probably not that one. I don't think I'm interested in that. I don't think I'm interested in ramping my opponent. I think that's too scary in this matchup, which means cutting that. Is this enough cards? 58, 59, 60. So some of this stuff is going to get pretty hard to cast. I should probably just cut Gitrog then and play Go for the Throat. It still kills like welders and stuff just fine. Welders, engineers, fable tokens, that sort of stuff. Will I keep this 1 card hand? I think so. It's weird, but I think so. Pyroblast being a clean answer to Frog is not the greatest. But I have a couple of spell lands here, so I think this is ultimately fine. We've got a Surveil land, Underground Mortuary. Nope. Absolutely not. 6 is good. 6 is very actively good. So I'm going to play Frog. And like Life from the Loam, 6, Frog is like a very wide range of card advantage. It beats Lightning Bolt, Van Fury, and friends, and loses to Pyroblast. I don't feel that bad about just hemorrhaging lands to play it when I have Life from the Loam and I can just get everything back. Yeah. And again, not being able to back up your Psychic Frog with proper counterspells is rough. Goldred's Edict is cool. I think I am just getting 6 into play, though. So as a refresher, when this attacks, mill 3, you can put a land from among them into your hand. During your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. So I can cast them from graveyard by discarding a land as an additional cost. Yep, I've got Bog. Sure. Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. I did this poorly. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. All right. Please sacrifice a non-token creature. Goodbye, Engineer. Yeah, you can draw your card. That's fine. Now 6 is going to fuel the graveyard. Yeah, that's some good stuff. I did not draw a card by milling a land there, but I think that's fine. I still have Bojuka Bog to discard, and I have Life from the Loam. The Life from the Loam is actually like very potent. Aw. Oh no, I'll have to discard a land to get it back. Rats. I think I just attack and see what I get and then plan out the rest of the turn from there. Yes. I will take that Lush Portico. Opponent goes to 15. I'm interested in Springheart Nantuko. Yeah. Discard a land. Do Springheart Nantuko. I don't need to be in a rush here. Let's go 1, 2, 3. Maybe I can miss a land drop here. Or just do this. I don't know. Let's get the Frog. That doesn't maximize my Springheart Nantuko value. Wow, milling me. That's very good for me to hit. That's insane for me to hit. That feels like it was a mistake, unless my opponent is just trying to look at a couple more cards before conceding. Sure. Spirit Guide. Pyroblast. Yeah. That's not great. I need to Psychic Frog my way out of this. Decent number of outs here. Send in. If my opponent blocks, I am fine with that. I kill Painter Servant. Yep. Okay, draw a card, draw an Endurance, draw a Forest. Yep, I'm dead. And my opponent's in a bad enough situation that they will just go for it. Alright. GG's. Hello. If you find that you're regularly enjoying my content and watching most or all of my videos, please consider supporting me financially if you're in the position to do so. If you're not, that's perfectly fine and good. Likes, comments, sharing my videos with friends, all that stuff means a lot. But if you are in the financial position to support me, my website can tell you all the different ways that you can do that. You can become a YouTube member or support me on Patreon. Becoming a YouTube member gives you early access to videos, and doing either one of those gets you access to my Discord server as well. All right. Here's a primary difference between what we are doing and what Blue-Black Rescaminator is doing. When they draw the big creature, they can discard it and reanimate it, and I can't. I could maybe hard cast it. 1, 2, Veteran Explorer, 3, 4, Lair of Cultivation, 5, land drop. It is baffling to me that this is like maybe a hard castable Atraxa. It means that Psychic Krug is like much worse. This needs to be a white surveil, like the white surveil land. My opponent's playing Show and Tell. I can technically put this in and it's respectable. Yeah. White surveil land. No. Almost. Almost good. The black mana situation is just not super good. I guess we just start by seeing if this resolves. It does. So I am going to do the thing. Yeah. I don't have black mana yet. Blue, white, so I need green and black in theory. I have black in theory. Don't mind more of it. Alright. Fuck. I went black, blue. Oh, no, these are entering tapped. Never mind. JK. Yeah. One into play tapped, one to hand. I've already made my land drop. Cabal Therapy, target you. I'm going to name Sneak Attack rather than Show and Tell. Like, Show and Tell I've got a chance. Sneak Attack I don't think I do. Well, we missed. Do not have the ability to play a creature and flash it back and hit both of those ponders, unfortunately. I would say opponent's hand is quite good here. Although given how much mana they have in their hand, it's not like I actually accelerated them that much. Sneak attack. Oh, the One Ring! Sure, that's really good. My opponent has protection from everything. I can't flash back Cabal Therapy this turn. Blue, I can play one Psychic Frog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Atraxa's hard castable next turn. Yeah? Fuck, I have to exile my own graveyard. Yeah. Yeah, so only one default target here. Opponent loses their life. And they just need to find a way to do something with that Grizzlebrand, and it probably results in my loss directly or indirectly. I have very little to sideboard for this, right? Yeah, oof, Thoughtseize, go for the throat. No. No. So that's 2 activations. I should die here. Bojukabogging myself means that my Psychic Frog can't block, which is very fucking funny. Yep. Yeah, kill me. I guess my Psychic Frog can block if I discard all 3 cards in my hand. Yeah. That was actually, like, not a very good set of cards. I think my opponent gaining 14 life here and, like, being able to funnel all that into the One Ring, though, is just, like, enough where I can tap out. I don't think it is worth the time anymore. Oof for One Ring. Thoughtseize for stuff. Go for the Throat is not great, but is playable, and I think Force of Vigor falls into the same boat, where a lot of times that's not going to kill a sneak attack the way you want it to. Gitrog's very slow. Ramping my opponent in their One Ring deck is bad. You're going. That's these 4. And then if I want to cut Veteran Explorer, I can board in those 4 cards up there. Yeah, my opponent has the One Ring, Show and Tell, and Sneak Attack as expensive cards. Ramping them is actively bad. Ball Therapy is actively good, though, so there's that. Ugh. Those are my thoughts. With a top deck black land, this is fine. Otherwise, this is garbage. I'll mulligan. This has a plan to win. I think it's a bad plan to win, but it is a plan. I'll keep this and discard the secondary Life from the Loam that's unlikely to do a lot. I will take that. That allows me to cast Life from the Loam after I Wasteland. Hell yeah. Very, very happy with that. These two wastelands are going to do some serious work. So, bam, bam. I think I thought seas. I think this game is not about Elvish Reclaimer. I took Caracas out of the deck. I thought it was greedy in terms of the mana. Ooh. We are protecting something good over there. Sure. Natural Order is great. Yeah. So I think we are playing Life from the Loam, targeting this wasteland to get it back. Already made my land drop. I'll pass the turn. Turn 3, I have Springheart Nantuko plus Landfall, and then hopefully turn 4, I have Natural Order. Opponent does not have a Surveil land here. I guess it doesn't make sense to get that if I just returned Wasteland via Life from the Loam. Alright. Opponent has Sneak Attack. They don't have red mana showing. You want to take a natural draw? Sure. So, Springheart Nantuko, Wasteland, take out Ancient Tomb. Pass turn, hope I'm not dead. We are a little bit away from natural order. Oh, hell yeah, we're not dead. I think we're in terrible shape, but we're not dead. If I Life from the Loam, I can always natural order next turn. So, bam. Landfall trigger. Go to combat. Yaw. Opponent is at 14. Fetch. I want an untapped land. I have green, black. I don't have blue yet. Let's pick up a Trop. Trigger Landfall. Cast Life from the Loam. Just one target, I think. That gets me my next land for next turn. And then I Reclaimer. This is in theory 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 next turn. Lethal the following turn. And I get an Atraxa? Oh no! Not great. They have an Atraxa. How bad? Bad! Lotus Petal Emrakul levels of bad. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, I can potentially natural order off the top. What all does my opponent get there? So there's going to be a show and tell still. 7, 7. I guess this is worth playing. It just feels terrible. Fetch. Fail land. Oh. Yes. Okay. So here comes 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get rid of Reclaimer. As 6. Keep the lands and the Springheart. Yep. Emrakul gets sacked. Do not dredge. Cast. Sacrifice a non-token creature. Bam, bam. Counterspell either way gets me. Yeah, okay. Dead on board. Oh, we're done with this league. That's the end. Alright, so what have we learned from our deck today? Springheart Nantuko plus Life from the Loam. Pretty cool. Springheart Nantuko plus Flare of Cultivation Veteran Explorer makes for a really big turn. Psychic Frog plus Life from the Loam is okay, but we're such a worse Psychic Frog deck than both Blue-Black Scam and Grixis Delver. Like something we saw, when a Rescaminator deck goes and draws something like Atraxa, they just get to discard it to the frog, and then they can reanimate it. When we do that, it's just a +1/+1 counter, and this is never realistically coming back. Not being able to protect your Psychic Frog with Daze and Force of Will matters a lot, because like if Psychic Frog gets going, it is insane. More and more players are playing decks and cards that just answer Psychic Frog. Like the format is very much coalescing around the blue-black shell. I believe the Gitrog monster was sideboarded out in every round. Titania slapped. Like Titania did some cool things and was something that I actively wanted to top deck. And I think I thought Nuts here. Stole it away one time and I was real sad. So Preston, for what it is, this deck is pretty cool. I think you go more the landfall route if you want to do something that looks like this. Like, I don't think the Elvish Reclaimers were very good this league. Like, they were just 3-4 dudes. Like, maybe you cut the 4 Elvish Reclaimers, you get 2 more Springheart Nantukos in there, you go harder on Life from the Loam. I don't know that you want to go so deep as Exploration, but maybe you put a Dryad of the Elysian Grove into the deck that can give you some extra land drops off a Green Sun. I wouldn't just mind playing a playset of Endurances in the main deck. Like, I think we are at that point in the metagame where just pre-sideboarding against blue-black decks and Grixis decks is appropriate. The -4 Reclaimer, +4 Endurance, and then find a way to get 2 Springheart Nantuko in there, maybe one more Life from the Loam. Maybe Flare of Cultivation doesn't belong. I don't know. Like, Flare of Cultivation plus Springheart Nantuko, like, if you played the Springheart in higher numbers, could get you to big mana faster. You need more mana sinks in the deck, though? I don't know. Maybe this deck is just better as a green-black mid-range deck that does not have the Psychic Frogs. But you probably just end up building, like, the Elvish Reclaimer, Elves, the Cradle Control, whatever you want to call it. And I guess you could White of the Reliquary as a 1-of at that point if you're playing 4 Springheart Nantuko. And if you're playing 4 Springheart Nantukos, maybe get a Cradle. There is probably something here. I don't know that there is something here that approaches the higher power levels of the metagame, but there is probably something here if you start messing around with a green-black graveyard lands matter shell. Alright, folks. Haven't already ordered some Springheart Nantukos? Consider 2amagic.com, promo code ThrabenU to save you a little bit on your order, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. That was legitimately a fun league for the most part. See ya.